Well, shaking, folks. Back with another reaction, back with some more J-drama score. We're back with a show that I have talked about with a couple reactions. They were the proper soundtrack of the show. We're talking a show, Okitegami Kyoko's Memorandum. This is a show it combines comedy, romance, and essentially sort of sci-fi. Not too much sci-fi. It's essentially like if you combine the movies Memento and 50 First Dates in one respect, and that respect is that the main character has a memory that essentially resets every day. She can't form new memories, and it stems from some incident that she only has these visual flashes of what happened, but from that point on, she can't form new memories, and eventually you do find out what happened, and it relates to some of the things going on in the present time and so on. But essentially it's a detective show, despite the fact that she has a memory that resets. It's every time she sleeps, so it's not just like her every day it resets. If she happens to fall asleep, like take a nap or something, when she wakes up, anyone that she's met or anything that she's done, since that incident, she has to learn and meet anew. But she's very insightful, deductive, a very good detective, observational. She picks up on a lot of details. And so she's hired out as a private detective, and it's perfect because she gets hired by a lot of companies that have sensitive information that's maybe been stolen, and they want to get the situation resolved but without any publicity and so on. Well, what better detective than a detective who's going to forget the case by the time they wake up the next day, and you'll never have to worry about them signing a non-disclosure agreement or whatever because they're just not going to remember. And she's so good at what she does that kind of like Sherlock Holmes, the police, end up calling her in some occasions, but also because she has connections to these companies that have used her before, like, hey, can you get her again? But again, she meets everyone new every day. She lives at this hotel/cafe. Eventually, this very unlucky guy, played by the excellent actor, it's Okada Masaki. He is just a really funny actor in this show. He's a really good, he plays emotional roles too. I've seen him act in a number of different things, like Fubina Ben Ria, where he's also very funny but also emotional. Regardless, yeah, he is an incredibly unlucky person. His name, I think, means essentially like bad luck. And so he gets blamed for things he didn't do. People perceive him to have been inappropriate when he totally wasn't. And so at the beginning of the show, he's accused of stealing something for the company he works for. And so Kyoko is brought in, and he is eventually proved innocent by her, and he's kind of taken with her, and he kind of asks, hey, can I hire you again? And she's like, sure, but I'm not going to remember you. And so over the course of the show, he end up needing to hire her because he's very unlucky, and every time he gets fired for not having done something that people think he's done, he gets a new job, and then there's a misunderstanding, and once again he gets blamed for something he didn't do and he gets fired. So he keeps having to hire her, but increasingly he keeps wanting to hire her because he's really drawn to her, and she is attractive, and he's also in a way kind of wants to make sure she's okay, because despite the fact that when she's detecting, she's on top of it as anyone, she is sort of vulnerable, maybe to manipulation and so on. And as the show goes on, the tenor of the show gets more and more serious, a bit more and more emotional. There's a suggestion of romance, but again, she doesn't, she can't form new memories, but she eventually writes on her arm, I can trust Yakusuke, I think it is. I forget exactly the name. But basically, the sort of emotion of the show evolves, but then there's some intrigue, and someone is trying to manipulate and take advantage of Kyoko, so there's a lot going on in the show. I would say by the time it ends, it's one of the coolest things, and it's really emotional and sort of dramatic. It starts very silly and light, so it's a show that evolves in tone over the course. But yeah, we're going to listen to the opening tune on the soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack was composed, once again, by two people, as some of these soundtracks are. The two people are Suihiro Kenichiro, but the tune we're going to hear is by the other composer, Sasano Megumi, who I assume is a woman, but she doesn't actually have her own page on this site that I use. It's a dead link. But yeah, I assume that's a woman. Megumi is often a given name for a woman. Regardless, the opening tune, I want to make sure I got this right, and again, I don't speak Japanese, even though some words I do know. But the title in Japanese is Okite Jo Kyo no Biburoku, which means essentially Memorandum of Wake Up. So like, or the Memorandum of Waking Up, which again, it sort of like relates to the show, and the term memorandum is used because eventually, not only does she write notes on her body, which she uses to sort of make sure she knows who she can trust and whatever, there's a sense that she might be in real danger, and so before she might succumb to that danger, she writes down everything that's happened, that's built up in notes that she remembers and things that she's observed in that day. And so that's Okitegami Kyoko's Memorandum. So in any case, we're going to listen to the first tune. As I said, it's essentially called the Memorandum of Waking Up. And the show, I believe, is from 2015. Do I have that right? 2015, that's right. So here we go. Suspense in the tune. Tonal shift. Playful, but also maybe a bit of danger lurking somewhere. Little percussive flourishes. Shout out to whoever's on the piano. Kind of like a harpsichord. Uncertainty, perhaps, of not always knowing who you can trust because your brain just doesn't work the way it used to. Sort of music box feel. Those like castanets or whatever that is. lot of different flavors in that same tune. It has that sort of, kind of introductory, sort of light and floaty feel, and then it kind of gets a bit more deliberate when it goes into that piano section and sort of, like a detective trying to figure things out. But then it gets like sweeping and a bit dramatic in that one section. So yeah, a lot of different flavors in the same piece. And it's used, like I say with a lot of these J-drama score reactions, it's used really well in the show. And it really sort of heightens the sort of emotion and intensity of a number of scenes. And in particular, that part where it's like it pauses, dead pause, and then rolls in with that sort of, like real string and brass heavy melody that I said kind of reminded me of like something I would expect to hear in a really good like 70s like detective show or something. Yeah, that part is often, it really hits in some of the scenes in the show. So anyway, shout out again, what was it, Megumi, but it was, what was the surname, Sasano? Yeah, Sasano Megumi, shout out to her. Big ups to the show, fantastic show. Yeah, let me know what you think of the tune. Other than that, I will see you next time. Peace.